Alright guys, so can minimalism go too far? That might be the question you're asking yourself when it comes to this watch. So this is the Mudita Element. This is the second watch I've checked out from Mudita, and they definitely tend to do things a little bit differently. They really are all about minimalism with their watches, but they always have some interesting things going on as well, and this watch is no exception. So this is actually going to be launching on Kickstarter on the 7th of March. So this is the packaging you'll get it in. We've got the branding on the top there, Mudita Element, and then the tagline, the ultimate timepiece for the mindful minimalist. So the watch you'll get, once the Kickstarter is done, you'll get a certificate like this one, and it's to prove that it is Swiss made, and also to give you the unique number of your watch. On here it actually says it's going to be one of 500, but it's actually going to be one of 700 for the final version. And here's the watch itself. So as you can see, yep, it is ultra minimalist, but as I said, don't click off just yet. It has got some interesting things going on with it that might not be immediately apparent. But before we get into all that, first of all, let's go over the dimensions. So we've got a diameter of 39mm, thickness of 7.7. Yep, I did say that right, 7.7. And we've got an automatic movement in this. So that is really slim. I imagine you probably weren't expecting that. So that is really impressive. But I'm not going to mention what the movement is right now. We'll get into that a bit later on. Getting back to the dimensions though, we've got a lug width of 20mm, then the all-important lug to lug is coming in at a really compact 42, so again, really wearable for a lot of different size wrists. Then when it comes to the weight on this supplied strap, it's coming in at 44 grams, so again, really light as well. And this is something else that's interesting with this watch. It's not your standard leather strap, so if we get a zoom in, we'll talk about it in a bit more detail. So first of all, the hardware on this is actually titanium. So it's just a simple brushed finish. And we've got one fixed keeper, one floating. Then when it comes to the buckle, it might look like there's no branding on that, but if we flick it around, we have actually got it on the underneath. So again, keeping it nice and subtle and minimalist. It's on there, but it's hidden. Moving on to the strap, we've got the Mudita branding on there. So you might think this is a standard leather strap, but it isn't. It's actually cactus leather. So, as it says on the other side, that is vegan, and we've also got a quick release on it as well, so that's good to see. And it is a really soft, supple strap, really comfortable. No break-in period at all. Now, moving on to the case. We'll start with the case back, because there's some interesting stuff on the back of this. You can see we've got screws, not screw down. We've got the Mudita Element, and then again, we've got that number saying it's 462 of 500, but the final version will actually be of 700 instead. Then we've got Swiss made, automatic, so as I said, really thin automatic movement, 50 meter water resistance, but then this is where it gets interesting as well. So we've got titanium, so it's a titanium case, and also apparently we've got sapphire, which we'll be testing in a bit. Getting back around to the side of the case, you can see we've got these really nice curved lugs, which are really compact. Again, helping with that lug to lug. And you can also see there that completely flat crystal, which integrates nicely to the case. Again, keeping it simple, keeping it minimalist. But now let's get onto the dial. Let's talk about that in a bit more detail, because this is where the real minimalism comes in, and where you're going to notice it most. So it's a fully printed dial, nothing applied. We've got no branding on there at all, no text on there, bar the numbers. So this is where the first issue comes in for me. I think this watch really needs a second hand. Otherwise you can look at it and think it's a quartz maybe. If you've got that automatic movement in there, give us a second hand to show it, so we can see the movement. I don't have a problem with it being a minimalist watch, but I think that might be taking it a little bit too far for me personally. Let me know down in the comments though, what do you think? So moving on to the hands that we do have. Again, I've got a slight issue here. I think that hour hand is too short. I'd like to see it touching the edge of those numbers. It's just too far off for my liking. I don't have a problem with it being minimalist and quite simple. I think that suits the watch, but just have that hour hand a little bit longer. Obviously with this kind of style of watch, legibility isn't an issue at all. It's really legible. Despite having quite thin hands, it's still not a problem to tell the time at all. And we've got a decent amount of AR on this crystal as well. It almost looks like it's not there sometimes. So on camera, the dial might appear white, but in reality, it is actually slightly more a silver colour. Hopefully that'll come across more on the macro shots, so you'll be able to see it a bit more clearly, what it actually looks like in person. But now, let's get on to this movement. You're probably wondering what movement have we actually got in here. Before we do that, I'll quickly show you the crown, because it can be a little bit small. Luckily you don't have to unscrew it or anything, it's just a push-pull crown. But if you've got larger fingers, it might be a little bit of an issue, especially if you've got short nails, because you do need to get your nail in there really. But again, they've kept it small for aesthetic reasons, keeping with that minimalist overall aesthetic. So if we pull it out, obviously we don't have a second hand, so you can't see we have actually got hacking. So again, another reason I would have liked that second hand on there. So we can just change the time, pop it back in, and then obviously we can hand wind it. But again, it is quite a small crown, so you might have a little bit of a problem grabbing it. But it all works well, no issues at all. Again, I really do think they should have had that second hand on here. Because with it being the SW300, you'd have that nice smooth sweep. But now, let's check if we have actually got sapphire as it said, using the trusty diamond selector tool. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal. So that is good to see. So now, we'd normally be checking the lume, but obviously with this kind of style of watch, we don't have any lume, as you probably figured out. So all that's left to do now is go over the details for the Kickstarter and the pricing, because that's what you want to know if you are interested in this watch still and you've got this far into the video. So as I said at the start, the Kickstarter is going to be launching on the 7th of May. I'll leave a link in the description to the Mudita website where you can sign up to get notified when it goes live and for more information. So when it comes to the pricing, the RRP is actually pretty high. I personally think it's a bit too high. So that's coming in at €999, £854, $1,067. So I think that's far too much, but don't worry, the Kickstarter is far less than that. It's actually going to be €599, £512 and $639. So that's a discount of 40%. So if you do want to pick one up, definitely do it on the Kickstarter. I wouldn't be getting it otherwise. I just think it's far too much. But in terms of the Kickstarter pricing, for what you're getting, yeah, it's on the higher end, but you are getting quite a lot of good stuff. You're getting titanium, you're getting sapphire, you're getting the SW300, and all in that really thin case as well. Plus, it's limited edition. So you probably want to know what it's like on wrist before you make up your mind. So let's do that now. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So it does wear really nicely. And as I said, that cactus leather strap is really soft, really supple and comfortable. I like the fact that they've got the titanium hardware matching the case. It wears really nicely with that really small, compact lug-to-lug and thickness as well. Easily going to slip under a cuff if you want to wear it with a shirt. And as I said, really legible, as you'd expect with this kind of style. But that thickness, I still can't quite get over that. The fact that it is only 7.7mm thick and it's got an automatic movement in it. That's really impressive. And again, it's a titanium case as well. As I said before, there's definitely a lot of good stuff with this, but is it minimalism gone too far, as I alluded to in the intro? I personally think they have gone a little bit too far with some things, mainly that second hand that I've mentioned a few times already. It definitely needs it in my opinion, just to give it some life. If that smooth sweeping second hand for the SW200 was on there, I think it'd be great. That's the one major thing I would change. Other minor one, just make that hour hand a bit longer, but that's pretty much it. I'd normally say I prefer applied indices, but given this style of watch, I think the fully printed suits it. It goes with the minimalist aesthetic, so I'm not going to mention that. The only other gripe I have is that pricing. Well, the one that isn't the Kickstarter pricing. That's far too much. The Kickstarter pricing I think is probably about right, although you could argue it is on the higher end. But again, with the things that this has got, as I mentioned earlier, the titanium, the SW300, that really slim case, the interesting cactus leather strap, which is quick release, it's definitely a pretty interesting, unique watch. There's a lot more to it than you would think initially looking at it. So if you are still interested in picking one up, again, all the details will be down in the description, so you can check it out, sign up for the notifications for when the Kickstarter goes live. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.